They called the meeting to talk strategy, but everyone in the room knew it was really about him. A black executive with numbers no one could argue against, and a vision so big it terrified them. They smiled thinly, passed polite insults like hors d'oeuvres, and planned to gut his project before it could make them obsolete. The funny thing was, they didn't realize who really controlled the money they were about to steal. They thought they were cornering him, but they were signing their own ruin. If you want the full story of betrayal, revenge, and the moment arrogance turns to fear, hit like, subscribe for the next chapters, and drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell us where you're tuning in from. This is one corporate war you'll want to see unfold. Marcus Langston strides into the executive boardroom with his shoulders squared and head high, determined not to show the tension twisting in his gut. The room is immaculate, gleaming with wealth and power. Polished walnut table stretching the length of the floor-to-ceiling windows that open onto a panoramic view of the city skyline. Early morning light spills in, highlighting every sleek line of the decor and throwing the occupants into sharp relief. The leather chairs creak as executives shift to regard him with polite disinterest or open disdain. At the head of the table sits Richard Sterling, CFO, fingers steepled, mouth quirked in an arrogant half-smile. He doesn't rise to greet Marcus or even nod. He just watches. Claudia Harper, head of HR, arranges her notes neatly, glancing up briefly with an expression carefully stripped of warmth. Lisa Chun scrolls on her phone, ignoring Marcus entirely until she senses his eyes, and then offers a smirk before looking away. Marcus sets down his leather briefcase, careful not to let it slam, and connects his laptop to the screen with deliberate precision. He rehearses the opening lines in his head one last time. He's prepared for this. Over-prepared. This expansion plan isn't just a strategy. It's his chance to show the board that their stagnant market share can be shattered, that their logistics company can transform into a national powerhouse. He clears his throat. "Good morning, everyone," he begins, voice even, professional. A couple of non-committal grunts answer. Richard's lips curl as he makes a show of checking his watch. Marcus ignores it and clicks the first slide to life. The screen lights up, expansion strategy, positioning for category leadership. He takes a breath to launch in. But before he can get 2 sentences in, Richard Sterling's loud, theatrical yawn slices through the quiet. "Oh God," Richard mutters, voice booming, eyes twinkling with cruel delight. "Is this going to take long? Some of us have work to do." The room ripples with laughter. One of the junior VPs ducks his head to hide a grin. Lisa outright snickers behind her hand. Marcus's jaw tightens for a fraction of a second before he forces it to relax. He gives a tight, fake smile that feels like acid in his throat. "I'll try to be concise, Richard." Richard leans back, looking satisfied. "Good man," he says lazily. Marcus clicks to the next slide, continuing despite the heat in his face and the thudding of his pulse in his ears. He outlines operational footprints, high-density shipping corridors, the path to doubling revenue in 5 years. His words are polished, precise. He's done this 100 times in front of a mirror. But the room has already stopped listening. Claudia flips through her folder like she's looking for something more interesting to read. Lisa is tapping on her phone, thumbs moving at speed. Marcus sees it all, but keeps going, voice steady. Mid-sentence, Claudia interrupts without even bothering to raise a hand. Her voice drips with false sweetness. "Marcus," she says, drawing out his name like a scolding teacher. "Could you maybe keep the strategy simpler? For everyone to understand." The insult is delivered so smoothly, it takes a half beat for the room to react. Then more chuckles. Lisa glances at Richard with an exaggerated eye roll. Marcus feels the flush creep up his neck. He takes a single deep breath. "I'm happy to clarify any section you'd like, Claudia," he says, voice like steel sheathed in velvet. "Which part specifically needs simplification?" Claudia doesn't even look at him. She waves a dismissive hand, focusing on her notes. "Oh, just all of it," she says lightly. "You know how you can get overcomplicated." Laughter this time is louder. Richard actually slaps the table softly. Marcus's nails bite into the edge of the table as he fights the urge to curl his hands into fists. He slides to the next part of the presentation, trying to continue. Phase 1 is focused on asset acquisition and upgrading routing software to maximize efficiency. Richard interrupts again with a snort. Honestly, Marcus, I don't want to sit through 50 slides of fluff. Can you just give us the real plan? Or is that it? Lisa chimes in immediately, smirking. Yeah, Marcus, the real plan. The junior execs laugh along now, trying to signal their loyalty to power. Marcus straightens fully, turning to face them all, his eyes hard. The projected slide flickers light across his face. He locks onto Richard's gaze, unblinking. The real plan, he says in a voice that could cut glass, is to take us from 4th in market share to 1st, to double revenue in 5 years, and to do it by outthinking the competition, not outspending them. Silence, just for a heartbeat. Then Richard snorts again. Cute, he drawls, leaning back in his chair and folding his arms behind his head in a pose of perfect, effortless dominance. Lisa Chin arrives last, pulling out her chair with an audible scrape and setting down her designer tote like she's taking territory. The atmosphere is frigid, the only sound the low hum of the ventilation and the occasional muted clack of Claudia's nails against her coffee cup. Marcus begins methodically walking through his streamlined slides, speaking carefully, evenly. He's changed the language, softened the bolder claims, added the financial models they asked for. He's tried to give them no reason to dismiss it. So in this version, he explains, voice calm, controlled. I focused on conservative ROI projections and a phased acquisition model. It's all about measured growth, reduced risk. You can see the sensitivity analysis here. He gestures at the crisp chart. Richard glances up with bored disdain. Is this the same chart you sent us in email? Marcus nods once. Yes, but this time with the added cash flow modeling. Richard gives a hollow laugh. Right, because you're assuming those numbers hold. That's cute. Lisa taps her pen on the table with measured annoyance. Marcus, no one's questioning your enthusiasm, she says, voice dripping with sarcasm on the word. We're questioning whether these projections aren't, let's say, a bit optimistic. Marcus keeps his expression neutral, though his stomach churns. He opens another slide. These are market comparisons. Competitors who have grown in comparable sectors. Claudia interrupts with a light laugh, flipping a page in her notes without looking at him. Marcus, you're missing the point. It's not about proving you're right. It's about understanding why people feel uneasy. She says it like she's explaining empathy to a stubborn child. Marcus breathes in, fighting the heat crawling up his neck. Uneasy about what? Claudia doesn't answer right away. She adjusts her glasses slowly. About the scale of this, the pace. You're asking us to gamble the entire division's reputation on your plan. Her emphasis on your is subtle, but unmistakable. Marcus leans back slightly. It's not gambling if the strategy is sound. And you're not gambling the division's reputation on me. You're investing in a plan that benefits all of us. Richard snorts. Yeah, well, not all of us buy that. You want to spend $3.5 billion like you're playing Monopoly. Lisa chimes in smoothly. We just think maybe you should focus on incremental improvements before, I don't know, a revolution. The room is quiet for a moment. Marcus feels the chill in the air more than the AC can explain. He glances at his screen, at all the data, the models, the justifications. He knows it's good, but he also knows they don't care. They don't want to believe him. Twist for Claudia sighs theatrically and closes her folder. Look, Marcus, she says, softer now, leaning forward in mock concern. No one is attacking you. We're trying to help you see how you might be coming across. A bit aggressive, a bit too confident. She gives a small, sympathetic smile that doesn't reach her eyes. It's not a good look. Marcus forces himself not to react. I'm being clear, not aggressive. There's a difference. Claudia's smile tightens. Maybe you think that, but you're not the one who decides how others perceive it. Richard chuckles. Yeah, Marcus, tone it down. We're not here for a TED Talk. Lisa folds her arms, watching him with that cat-like smirk. You want buy-in? You need to be less defensive. The word slices him. Defensive. It's their favorite weapon. Marcus lowers his gaze to his laptop, the screen a bright rectangle in the low-lit room. His carefully calculated numbers blur for a moment. He blinks once, twice. He feels suddenly, painfully alone. When he looks up, they're all watching him with varying degrees of impatience, amusement, dismissal. He wants to scream. He wants to flip the table. Instead, he speaks quietly. "Fine. I'll revise it again." But tonight, when he steps through the glass doors and scans the crowd, he sees them before they see him. Richard Sterling at a corner table, tie loosened, drink in hand, laughing too loud. Claudia Harper sits to his left, legs crossed neatly, her laughter polite but sharp-edged, perfectly performed. Lisa Chun is scrolling through her phone, setting it down only to take a sip of wine and lean in conspiratorially, eyes flicking to Richard with private amusement. A few of the junior VPs sit nearby, visibly trying to keep up, their laughs coming half a second late, nodding too often, desperate for approval. Marcus's breath catches for a second. His heart kicks once, hard. He stands there, back straight, watching them for a moment that stretches painfully. He realizes this isn't just a post-work drink. This is strategy. They're talking about him. He can see it in the way Claudia's eyes narrow while she gestures with her glass, in the slight tilt of Richard's head as he listens, in the ripple of laughter that follows a remark he can't hear. When Richard glances over and locks eyes with Marcus, there's no surprise. Just that slow, infuriating grin spreading across his face. Marcus nods, curt and professional, and starts walking toward them. The conversation hushes a little as he approaches. Lisa raises her eyebrows but says nothing. Claudia glances at him, expression unreadable, fingers tapping once on her wine glass. Richard leans back, expansive, owning the whole table with a single dismissive gesture. "Marcus," he says, voice dripping lazy amusement. "Didn't know you were invited." Marcus feels his teeth clench. He forces them to unclench. "I thought this was an open invite," he says evenly. Richard shrugs, eyes glinting. "Sure, just catching up. Going over a few things. Internal stuff." Claudia tilts her head with exaggerated sympathy. "Team alignment," she adds softly. "We didn't think you'd want to be here for that." Lisa doesn't even bother to look up. She just lets out a little laugh, quiet but cutting. Marcus stands there for a second longer, letting their words settle. He feels the sting in his chest, the tightness in his throat. He wants to argue, to demand to know why he wasn't included in internal stuff that's clearly about his project. But he knows the answer. They don't want him there. They don't want his voice. Not here. Not in front of witnesses. Not when they can plan their next move in the shadows. He breathes in through his nose, lets it out slowly. "Enjoy your night," he says coolly. Richard raises his glass in a mocking toast. "Cheers, Marcus." Marcus turns and leaves, the sound of laughter already picking up behind him before he even reaches the door. Twist sits outside on the balcony. Marcus grips the railing, cold metal biting his palms. He watches the city spread out in front of him, a sea of light and promise that feels a million miles away. His phone buzzes in his pocket. He pulls it out and sees the email header. Board calendar change. He clicks it open. The expansion strategy meeting has been rescheduled. Moved up by a day. No explanation. No poll for availability. Just an automated notice that it's now tomorrow morning. He blinks, rereading it twice, 3 times. He hadn't been told. He has client meetings lined up. Important ones. Ones they know he can't move. His stomach sinks. It's not an accident. It's the same play they always run. Make him look unprepared. Force him to choose between critical duties. Undermine him in front of the board. His thumb hovers over the reply button, a sarcastic retort forming in his mind. But he doesn't type it. Lisa is seated at the table, phone out, but watching Marcus's every move, waiting. Richard Sterling stands near the podium, laughing with one of the external investors, a thick-set man with a combed-over head of silver hair and a red face from too many cocktails. Marcus moves straight to the side table to plug in his laptop, trying to settle his pulse. He can feel the back of his neck damp with sweat under his collar, despite the blasting air conditioning. The whole week has been leading to this meeting, the formal presentation to the shareholders about the $3.5 billion expansion strategy. He's rehearsed it dozens of times, updated the slides until the colors blurred in his vision. But he can feel it already, the tension in the air, the hushed snickering in the corner, the sidelong looks. He sees Claudia whispering in Richard's ear, and they both turn to glance at him. Claudia laughs politely, lips covering her teeth, eyes glittering with that nasty, cold amusement she's perfected. Lisa's legs are crossed, heel bouncing lazily, face unreadable, but for the sharpness in her eyes. Marcus clears his throat and turns on the projector, the opening slide filling the massive screen behind him. Expansion strategy, positioning U.S. for category leadership. He smooths his tie once more, fingers shaking slightly. Then he turns. "Good morning," he says, voice carrying across the hall with forced calm. "Thank you all for making the time today. I want to walk you through the strategy we've developed to take us to category leadership, double revenue in 5 years, and expand our operational footprint across underutilized high-density corridors." A polite cough echoes from the second row. He keeps going. "We'll do this through a 3-phase approach focusing on asset acquisition, upgrading routing software, and targeted regional partnerships." The screen flickers to a map with shipping corridors highlighted. Marcus moves to point them out. That's when Richard Sterling interrupts. He doesn't raise his hand. He doesn't even bother to wait for a pause. "Marcus," he says loudly enough for the microphones to catch it, drawling with casual cruelty, "is there a version of this presentation for people who don't want to be bored to death?" The room erupts in forced, uncomfortable laughter. A few investors glance at each other, unsure if they should join in. Claudia laughs, a polite tinkle that sounds rehearsed, like she's covering for a kid telling a dirty joke at dinner. Lisa's mouth splits into a wide grin, eyes locked on Marcus to see his reaction. Marcus feels the blood drain from his face, then rush back all at once in a hot flush. He stares at Richard, jaw tightening, heart slamming in his chest. He opens his mouth to retort, then stops himself, breathing in through his nose so hard his nostrils flare. "I'll continue," he says finally, voice cracking just slightly on the first word. Richard leans back in his chair, looking triumphant. Claudia clears her throat with theatrical subtlety and says, "Richard, let's let Marcus finish his enthusiastic approach." She winks at the room. More scattered laughter. Marcus feels like he's standing on stage in his underwear. He turns back to the screen, his vision slightly blurry. He clicks to the next slide. His voice is lower now, but steady. Phase 1 focuses on acquiring underutilized assets to increase capacity in high-margin corridors. We have 3 targeted acquisitions in negotiation with projected ROI exceeding, but they're not listening. He can see the investors in the front row whispering, some glancing at Richard and Claudia to see how they should react. Lisa is texting again, eyes never leaving him. Twist 8 Claudia raises her hand as if she's a schoolteacher. He hesitates mid-sentence. She smiles angelically. "Marcus, quick question for you. You're assuming these acquisition targets will want to negotiate on your timeline. What's your plan if they don't?" Marcus blinks. He has the answer. He's rehearsed it. He opens his mouth. But Richard cuts in immediately. "Or if they realize you don't have the cash flow to back it up," he adds, voice dripping with contempt. Claudia laughs softly. "That too." Marcus feels the anger surge, so hard he has to grip the edge of the podium. He sees the cameras rolling. He knows every word is being recorded. He fights to keep his voice even. "We have cash reserves, plus committed credit lines, and existing relationships with the brokers," he says, voice shaking with restrained rage. He's barely slept since the shareholder disaster, reviewing every moment in his mind on a loop, hearing Richard's condescension and Claudia's polite laughter in his dreams. Now they're here under the pretense of post-mortem discussion, but Marcus knows what it is, a performance of authority meant to punish him. Richard Sterling leans back in his chair at the head of the table, arms crossed over his tailored suit, mouth twisted into something halfway between a smirk and a sneer. Claudia Harper shuffles her notes, avoiding eye contact, but not bothering to hide the satisfied curve of her lips. Lisa Chun is fully invested in her phone screen, tapping away with a tight, self-satisfied smile, legs crossed in expensive heels, the image of smug disinterest. Marcus watches them all, eyes dark, chest rising and falling in controlled, shallow breaths. He knows what's coming. He knows it by the way Richard glances at Claudia, by the way Lisa's mouth twitches when he dares to look at her. He's ready. Or at least, he hopes he is. Richard clears his throat in that deliberate, showy way he uses when he wants the room's attention. "Marcus," he begins, drawing out the syllables as if tasting something bitter. "We need to talk about the perception issue you're creating." Marcus blinks once, slowly, like a predator trying not to lunge. "Perception issue," he repeats, voice low, careful. Richard nods, as if that settles it. "The way you handled the shareholders was, well, aggressive, defensive. Not the leadership tone we expect at this level." Marcus tilts his head a fraction. "Aggressive," he says. Claudia speaks up, voice warm and false. "We understand you're passionate, Marcus. But sometimes passion comes across as confrontational. It doesn't make people feel comfortable." Marcus laughs once sharply. It's not friendly. Lisa's eyes dart up from her phone, startled. Marcus leans forward. "You mean it doesn't make you comfortable?" Claudia's smile doesn't waver. "Don't make this personal." Marcus's lip curls, and he doesn't bother to hide it. "It is personal. You're making it personal. Because when Richard talks over me in meetings, it's leadership. When I defend my work, it's aggressive." Richard's eyebrows rise in mock surprise. "Now hold on. Let's not pull the race card here." Marcus feels his teeth grind so hard he thinks they'll crack. "I didn't mention race," he says, voice dangerously soft. Richard spreads his hands wide. "You didn't have to. It's obvious that's where you're going." The silence in the room is heavy, suffocating. Claudia lets out a polite, uncomfortable cough. Twist 10 Marcus's eyes narrow. "You want to talk about obvious? Let's talk about the email that went around yesterday." Richard's eyes sharpen, but his mouth stays in that smirk. "What email?" Marcus slams his laptop open, screen illuminating his furious face. He turns it around. There it is. The email, sent from a private group chat that someone leaked to him. He'd sat all night debating whether to show it, finally deciding he couldn't hold back anymore. The words are simple, brutal, teaching a plantation manager how to behave. LOL. A still frame of Marcus at the podium, face frozen in mid-sentence, attached like a trophy. Silence detonates in the room like a bomb. Claudia's face goes pale. Lisa's fingers go still on her phone. Richard's smirk twitches, faltering for the first time. Marcus's voice is like ice. "Explain that, please." Richard shifts in his seat. "That's out of context." Marcus doesn't blink. "Oh, what's the context where that's acceptable?" Claudia breathes in, eyes darting between them. "Marcus, let's not. Let's not what, Claudia?" Marcus cuts in, voice rising for the first time, control finally cracking. "Let's not talk about the fact that half this room doesn't even pretend to respect me? That you laugh at me behind my back? That you use slurs when you think no one's looking?" Lisa finally speaks, voice shaking just a little. "It was just a joke." Marcus's eyes whip to her. "A joke," he repeats flatly. Lisa flushes, mouth opening and closing. Richard sits back, face hardening again now that the moment is here. "You're overreacting. You're being emotional." Marcus snorts so loudly it echoes. "Emotional. Right." He stands abruptly, chair scraping across the floor like a scream. The blinds shiver in the gust of air. He paces to the window, staring out at the city spread beneath them in perfect, heartless geometry. His voice is quiet now, almost calm. "You don't want leadership. You want obedience. You don't want vision. You want permission. And you sure as hell don't want someone who doesn't look like you telling you what to do." No one speaks. The room is dead, quiet except for the hum of the AC. Marcus turns back to face them. His eyes are wet, but he doesn't wipe them. He lets them see. "You think I didn't know," he says softly. You think I didn't see every sideways look, every whispered conversation I wasn't invited to, every fucking calendar change designed to make me fail? Richard's jaw clenches. Claudia opens her mouth, but nothing comes out. Lisa lowers her eyes. Marcus's chest rises and falls. He breathes once, twice, controlling the tremor in his hands. You want me gone? That's what this is. Richard's voice is cold now, final. You're not a good fit here, Marcus. That's what we're saying. Marcus nods slowly. Yeah, he says. I know. Marcus, Richard says, drawing out the syllables, pretending they're equals. We're going to need you to take a seat. Marcus stays exactly where he is, jaw tightening. He watches the sun sinking behind the skyline, the lights of the city flickering on one by one like 1,000 eyes watching him. He finally turns, slow, deliberate, shoulder square. Claudia Harper stands beside Richard with her arms folded, file tucked neatly under her elbow, her expression flat and cold, the mask of polite professionalism replaced by naked calculation. Lisa Chun sits at the conference table already, scrolling on her phone, but looking up at Marcus with that small, knowing smirk that makes his blood boil. Two junior executives sit further down, eyes flicking nervously between Marcus and Richard. But they don't say anything. They won't. They never do. Marcus doesn't sit. He plants his feet a few feet from the table, meeting Richard's gaze head-on. Richard sighs heavily, as if Marcus is an unruly child refusing to cooperate. Suit yourself, he says, dropping into the chair at the head of the table with a dramatic grunt. He leans back, arms stretching along the top of the chair, a picture of relaxed dominance. Let's get this over with. Claudia clears her throat delicately, opening the folder. Marcus, she says in a measured tone, every word weighed and chosen for maximum harm while maintaining plausible deniability. We've reviewed your expansion proposal extensively. After considerable discussion, the board has decided that it's not the right time to pursue your plan. Marcus doesn't react. He doesn't blink. He saw this coming. He knew it the second Richard yawned in that shareholder meeting, the second they started laughing at him while the cameras rolled. But knowing it was coming doesn't make it hurt less. He speaks carefully, voice controlled, low. So you're killing the entire project. Claudia shakes her head with exaggerated patience. Not killing it, redirecting it. We're moving leadership on the initiative to Richard's team for the next phase. Richard's smirk widens. He drums his fingers on the table like he's at a piano recital. Yeah, Marcus. It needs mature leadership. Someone the shareholders can trust. No offense. Marcus feels a spike of anger, so hot he has to look away to keep it from showing on his face. He forces a breath in through his nose. He turns back, eyes hard, voice quiet but deadly. The plan is mine. Every detail, every number, every target. You wouldn't have even known where to start without me. Richard leans forward, dropping the smirk for a second. We appreciate your contributions, but you'll be handing over all the materials to my team effective immediately. Claudia adds, it's best for everyone. We don't want a messy transition. Lisa's laugh is quiet but unmistakable. Marcus's head turns sharply toward her. She raises her eyebrows innocently, fingers laced on the table. Something funny, Lisa? He asks. Her lips curve just slightly. No, just this is all so dramatic. Richard actually chuckles. God, Marcus, lighten up. It's business. Don't make it about you. Marcus can feel his pulse hammering at his temples. His vision swims for a moment before he gets it under control. He locks eyes with Claudia. You're just going to let this happen, he says flatly. Claudia doesn't blink. The board voted. It's not personal. He laughs once, sharp and humorless. It's not personal, he repeats. Of course it's personal. You planned it. Richard leans back again, satisfied now that Marcus is cracking. Look, he says, pretending to be reasonable. You're still on the exec team, but this project is too important to gamble. We can't afford your style of leadership. Marcus inhales slowly, watching them all. The silence stretches, heavy, suffocating. Twist 12 Claudia finally breaks it with the coup de grace. We'll need you to step outside now, she says softly. We're going to finalize the handover plan with Richard's team. Marcus's mouth opens, then closes. He stares at her. "Excuse me." Claudia's voice hardens for the first time. "You're not part of this discussion anymore." Lisa's eyes gleam with unholy delight. Richard's grin is wide enough to split his face. "Security is on standby," Claudia adds, "just in case you need help finding the door." Marcus's vision tunnels. He looks over at the corner, and sure enough, two men in suits are standing by the door, hands clasped in front of them, pretending to look polite but ready to move. The room is so quiet he can hear the blood rushing in his ears. For one brief, terrible moment, he thinks about flipping the entire table over, about screaming, about finally telling them all exactly what he thinks of them. Instead, he closes his eyes, breathes, opens them again. He nods once, jerky, like the movement pains him. He reaches for his laptop bag slowly, deliberately, careful not to let them see his hands shake. He straightens to his full height, taller than Richard, even though Richard will never admit it. He meets Claudia's eyes and holds them. She looks away first. "Fine," he says, voice rough but steady. He doesn't say goodbye. He doesn't shake hands. He turns and walks toward the door, shoulders square, back straight, every step deliberate. The two security men move aside, watching him carefully. He doesn't spare them a glance. As he reaches the door, he hears Richard's voice behind him, low and mocking. "Don't worry, Marcus. We'll take good care of your baby." Marcus stops for half a second. He doesn't turn, doesn't give them the satisfaction. He opens the door and steps into the hall, letting it close behind him with a quiet, heavy click that feels like a cell door locking shut. Outside, the hall is empty, cold, silent. He stands there for a moment, breathing hard, heart slamming in his chest. He feels like he's going to explode, but there's no one to see it. He adjusts his tie, makes sure his shirt is still tucked, wipes the sweat from his brow with the back of his shaking hand. Then he starts walking, slow and steady, toward the elevators, refusing to look back, refusing to let them see him break. Marcus feels like the floor under him is tilting. He wants to shove the door back open and drag Richard out by his tailored lapels, to shout until the entire building rattles. Instead, he closes his eyes, inhaling a slow, deep breath through his nose. He holds it. Then he releases it in a long, trembling exhale. When he opens his eyes again, they're cold, sharp as broken glass. He adjusts his tie with steady fingers, brushing invisible lint from his perfectly pressed lapel, making sure not a single wrinkle shows. If they wanted a broken man walking out of that room, they would be disappointed. He turns on his heel, shoes silent on the plush carpet, and walks with unhurried precision down the hall. Each step is deliberate, measured, resonating with finality he can feel in the marrow of his bones. As he moves, he passes the bank of floor-to-ceiling windows that show the city lit up below, all neon and headlights and distant promise. He stares at his own reflection for half a heartbeat, a tall, lean figure in a perfect suit, eyes glowing with cold fury. He doesn't look defeated. He looks dangerous. He reaches into his jacket pocket and pulls out his phone. The screen illuminates his face in the dim hallway, the cool light throwing hard shadows on the set of his jaw. He unlocks it with a thumbprint, scrolling to a contact buried under corporate labels and innocuous titles. It reads, "Consortium Chair." His thumb hovers over it for a split second. Then he taps it. The phone rings twice before it picks up. A voice on the other end greets him politely, but with a guarded formality reserved for large sums of money. Marcus doesn't waste time. "It's Langston," he says, voice even almost calm. "Pull the funding." The voice on the other end hesitates. "All of it, sir?" Marcus's lips tighten. He stares straight ahead, watching the hallway glow with neon reflections like a runway to war. "Every cent," he says. "Effective immediately. Issue the notifications tonight." There's silence on the line, then a clipped, professional acknowledgement. "Understood." Marcus ends the call, lowering the phone slowly, letting his fingers relax around it before slipping it back into his pocket. He stands in the hallway for another moment, breathing evenly now, the weight in his chest finally shifting from the choking heat of humiliation to to the cool certainty of purpose. Twist 14, he turns slowly, walking back down the corridor toward the bank of elevators at the far end. As he moves, he passes assistants rushing around with armfuls of reports, hushed conversations in glass offices, the swirl of corporate life that once felt like home, but now seems like enemy territory. He watches them without blinking, making eye contact with anyone who dares look up. No one holds his gaze for long. As he reaches the elevators, he presses the call button and listens to the soft whir as the carriage rises toward him. He straightens his tie once more, smoothing it flat against his chest, the image of perfect control. Behind him, the door to the boardroom opens. He hears Richard's unmistakable voice spilling into the hallway, too loud, too pleased with himself. "That's what I'm saying," Richard booms, chuckling. He had no idea what he was doing. "We'll fix it. We'll make it work." With real leadership. Claudia laughs her practiced. Politicians laugh. It's for the best. He'll land somewhere. Maybe in marketing. Lisa's voice is dry and amused. If he can manage not to scare off the interns. Marcus doesn't turn. He doesn't acknowledge them. He just stands there, waiting for the elevator, hands clasped calmly in front of him. But inside, the words burn into him like brands. The elevator chimes. The doors slide open with a hush of expensive engineering. He steps in slowly, turning around just in time to catch Richard glancing over his shoulder. Their eyes lock. Richard's grin falters for half a second, some ancient predator instinct reacting to the cold murder in Marcus's gaze. Then the doors close with quiet finality, sealing Marcus off from the laughter, from the politics, from the betrayal. Inside the elevator, Marcus allows himself one deep exhale. His fingers drum once against the side of his leg before stilling. He feels his pulse steady. This isn't over. Not even close. As the elevator descends, he takes out his phone again, tapping out 2 short messages to his personal team. The first is to his private counsel. Initiate withdrawal from all commitments to the expansion fund. Notify them in writing tonight. The second is to his family office director. Prepare public statement suspending all planned investment. Use my signature. He hits send on both. The elevator stops at the ground floor. He steps out into the lobby, all chrome and marble, and the low murmur of late-night security chatting with each other. The phones keep vibrating. Notifications keep popping up. Subject: funding suspension. Subject: consortium withdrawal. Subject: project terminated. Richard's fingers drum the table once, twice, before stopping as he realizes everyone is watching him for guidance he doesn't have. He clears his throat. "Okay," he says, voice strained but trying for calm. "Everyone just needs to take a breath. This is a glitch. It's a miscommunication. We're talking about billions in funding. They don't just walk away." Claudia doesn't look convinced. She's flipping through her folder over and over, as if the answer might appear between the pages. Lisa just mutters, "It's all over the news." They're quoting the withdrawal statement already. Richard slams his palm on the table, making the entire row of coffee cups jump. "Enough. We're going to fix this. We're going to get on the call with the chair and explain. They don't want the bad press either. We're all partners here." Twist 16, that's when the boardroom door opens. Slowly, quietly, every head turns. Marcus Langston steps in, immaculate in his tailored suit, tie a crisp line of dark silk against a pristine white shirt. His face is calm, too calm, like deep water that hides what lives below. He closes the door behind him without rushing, lets the latch click shut with a finality that makes even Richard flinch. Silence falls so heavy you can hear the faint hiss of the air vents. Marcus doesn't say anything at first. He just stands there, dark eyes sweeping the table, meeting each gaze with a flat, cutting stare that makes people look away. Richard recovers first. He leans back, trying to reclaim dominance. "Marcus," he says with forced joviality. "Good to see you. Have a seat. We're just discussing." Marcus's voice slices across him like a blade. "Shut up." The words are quiet, perfectly enunciated, but they hit the room like a thunderclap. Richard's mouth freezes mid-smile. Claudia's eyes widen, fingers freezing mid-flip. Lisa drops her pen, which rolls off the table and clatters to the floor. Marcus doesn't move from the door. He just lets the silence hang, lets the discomfort grow. He wants them to feel small, powerless, exposed. When he speaks again, his voice is calm, flat, but vibrating with suppressed fury. Effective immediately, he says, the expansion plan is dead. There is no funding. There will be no acquisition. No phase 1, 2, or 3. You will tell the shareholders today that the project is over. Richard finds his voice strangled and high. You don't have the authority. Marcus's eyes cut to him so sharply that Richard stops. Marcus tilts his head slightly, voice dripping ice. You think this company was ever funding it? He lets the question settle, watches their brows furrow, confusion blooming like rot. That $3.5 billion was my consortium, my personal funds. My family office structured the deal. You didn't own a cent of it. Claudia's mouth opens and closes. Lisa's face drains of blood, the smirk gone, replaced by naked fear. Richard tries to bluster, words stumbling. That's not, we had approvals, we had contracts. Marcus actually laughs. Low, cruel, without joy. Read the contracts, he says. They're withdrawal on demand. You didn't even bother to check the details because you were too busy laughing behind my back, calling me your plantation manager. He leans forward, voice a snarl. You don't get to keep my money after trying to humiliate me. The silence is so deep, it's like the room can't breathe. Someone's phone buzzes on the table, the screen lighting up with a fresh email alert. Marcus's eyes never leave Richard's. By tonight, Marcus says, voice flat and inexorable, I want a public announcement of the project's cancellation. Own your failure, or I will. And I'll make sure every investor knows exactly why the funding vanished. Richard swallows, Adam's apple bobbing. Claudia tries to speak, voice cracking. Marcus, be reasonable. We can renegotiate. Marcus turns his gaze to her. Cold, pitiless. You think I'm here to negotiate? After you called security to remove me from my own meeting? Claudia Harper stands off to the side, clutching her tablet to her chest as if it's a shield. Her eyes are rimmed red from tears she refuses to shed in public, jaw tight as she scrolls furiously, reading email after email from furious investors demanding answers. Lisa Chun is seated on a chrome and leather lobby chair, knees pressed together, phone dangling from her limp fingers. Her eyes are hollow, staring straight ahead as if she's watching the ruins of her career burn in real time. The stock ticker on the screen shows their company's value plummeting by the minute. Red arrows point downward in relentless, horrifying precision. Reporters gather just outside the tinted glass doors, cameras flashing every time the doors is open. Security tries in vain to block them, their earpieces buzzing with urgent chatter. In the boardroom upstairs, panic shouts spill into the hallway. Papers are scattered everywhere. A big whiteboard is filled with frantic, half-erased scrawls. Contingency plan? Merger options. Investor damage control. The CFO is on speakerphone with the bank, voice breaking as he tries to reassure the line that their credit is good. The bank representative sounds skeptical, voice cutting and professional, offering only hollow platitudes before ending the call. Claudia paces a rut into the expensive carpet, hair coming loose from its usually perfect bun. She spins to face Richard. You said you could handle this, she spits, voice too loud. You said he wouldn't dare, that he'd crawl back begging for a role when he realized he wasn't indispensable. Richard is beyond listening. He's on the phone again. We're not broke. It's one project. Get the PR team to spin it. Get the lawyers to threaten him with something. Lisa finally speaks, voice flat and exhausted. There's nothing to threaten him with. He didn't violate anything. We did. Richard glares at her, teeth bared. Shut up, Lisa. Just shut up if you're not going to help. Downstairs, investors storm the reception desk, demanding meetings. Their voices carry angry, outraged, terrified for their money. The receptionist's hands shake as she pages the C-suite over and over, voice cracking. Twist 18, the business news anchor, finally turns the volume up. Her voice is crisp, unsympathetic. Shares of Sterling Harper Logistics are in free fall this morning after the surprise withdrawal of a major expansion fund led by CEO Marcus Langston. Sources close to the matter say the board ousted Langston last week before realizing he controlled the funding through his private consortium. She taps her notes meaningfully. Industry experts are calling it one of the most catastrophic self-inflicted wounds in recent corporate history. Cameras cut to investors leaving the building, faces grim, refusing to answer questions. A talking head analyst appears on the screen with furrowed brows. You don't humiliate the man who holds the purse strings. This was hubris, plain and simple. The TV screen splits to show the stock price again, nose diving, red dominating the ticker like blood spreading through water. In the HR office upstairs, Claudia sits alone now, door closed, the blinds drawn halfway. She has her head in her hands, elbows braced on her cluttered desk. The phone keeps ringing, but she doesn't answer. She knows what they're calling about. The company lawyer had been crystal clear. Firing Marcus that way, without due process, humiliating him in front of witnesses, using racially charged jokes in internal emails. There's enough evidence for a lawsuit that would destroy them even more than the funding loss. Her computer screen still glows with an open document titled Termination for Cause. Her fingers hover over the keyboard but can't move. The words won't come. Richard barges in without knocking, eyes wild, tie now fully undone. He sees her and his lips peel back in something that's not quite a smile. "Get the lawyer on the phone," he orders. "We're not going down like this. We'll smear him. Say he threatened us." Claudia finally lifts her head. Her eyes are empty. "It's over," she says, voice dead. "We can't even pay the settlement if he sues. The cash flow is gone. The credit line is frozen. No one will underwrite us now." The company had been forced into a partial sale, its grand old name rebranded under new ownership, and most of the old guard pushed out or scattered to consulting gigs that never quite landed. The financial pages had dissected it for weeks before moving on to the next scandal. But among the people who lived through it, the memory was still raw. Richard Sterling had vanished from the trade magazines after resigning for personal reasons, his name a cautionary whisper in industry circles. Yet today he stands quietly in the sleek, modern lobby of Marcus Langston's new office building, hands clasped in front of him, suit pressed but worn at the elbows, hair a little grayer, lines deeper around his eyes. He checks in with the receptionist, voice low, and waits until he's called upstairs. As the elevator opens on Marcus's floor, Richard steps out slowly, adjusting his tie nervously, scanning the space that feels too bright and too quiet. He sees clean lines, local artwork, plants in real pots, people working collaboratively at big share tables. He passes offices with glass walls where small teams debate ideas with whiteboards covered in fresh notes. Nothing secret, nothing hidden. Marcus's door is open. The CEO is behind his desk, reviewing documents with his chief of staff, pausing only to nod them out when he sees Richard's shadow in the doorway. Marcus doesn't rise. He waits, assessing. His dark eyes narrow slightly as Richard steps forward, clearing his throat. Richard opens his mouth, but nothing comes out at first. He coughs once, breathes. "Marcus," he says finally, voice cracking with the strain of humility he's never had to summon before. "Thank you for agreeing to see me." Marcus folds his hands on the desk. "Why are you here, Richard?" His tone is flat, professional, but not cruel. Richard lowers his eyes, swallowing hard. He runs a hand over his jaw. "I don't expect you to forgive me," he begins. "But I had to say it. I'm sorry. For all of it." Silence. The hum of distant conversation drifts in from a hallway. Marcus says nothing, watching him. Richard continues, voice hoarse. "I didn't see it. Or I did, and I ignored it. The racism, the condescension, the way I talked to you, the way I laughed when the others mocked you. I thought it was harmless. I thought it was just how things worked. But I see now. I see what it cost you, and what it cost me." His hands tremble as he tries to keep them steady. He forces himself to meet Marcus's eyes. "I lost everything, Marcus, and I deserved it. But you were right. About the plan, about the company, about me. I treated you like you didn't belong when you were the only one who actually did the work." Marcus's face doesn't change. He nods once slowly. "You came here to admit that." Richard's shoulders slump. "I did." He breathes in hard. "But there's more. I need your help." Marcus arches an eyebrow but says nothing. Richard forces himself to keep talking. "I'm starting over. Small logistics firm. Just a fraction of what I had. I want to do it right this time. I want it to be fair, open. I want to hire better, train better. I want to prove I'm not that man anymore." He clenches his fists, then releases them. "But I don't know how. Not really. I burned every bridge. And I don't trust myself not to fall back into the same shit if I'm surrounded by the same people. I need someone who knows how to build it right." Twist 20 Marcus sits back slightly, eyes on Richard with laser focus. The room is silent except for the buzz of the city outside, the traffic a muted roar beyond thick glass. Finally Marcus speaks, voice measured. "You want me to help you build your company?" Richard nods once slowly. "Yes." Marcus's gaze is sharp. "After everything." Richard swallows. "Yes." Marcus exhales slowly. "Tell me what you're willing to do." Richard straightens. "I'll give up final hiring sign-off. I'll recruit diversely. I'll set up training on bias. I'll publish salaries. I'll make sure people actually feel safe bringing problems to me. I'll take advice, even if it makes me look stupid. I'll let you tell me when I'm screwing up." His voice shakes. "I'll listen this time." Marcus studies him for a long, heavy moment. The seconds stretch until Richard has to fight not to squirm. Then Marcus nods once, almost imperceptibly. He gestures to the chair across from him. "Seat." Richard hesitates, then sinks into the seat, relief mingling with the raw fear still on his face. Marcus leans forward. His voice is quiet, but carries an authority forged in fire. "This isn't about charity. If I help you, it's because I'm not going to let another company do what you all did to me to someone else. You will do everything you just said, and more. You will report on it publicly. You will own what you did. You will make space for people who were never welcome in the rooms you thought belonged to you." Richard nods rapidly, a choked sound escaping him. "Yes, anything." Marcus narrows his eyes. "And when it gets hard, and it will get hard, you will not quit. You will not backslide, because I won't save you twice." Richard's voice is ragged. "I understand." Marcus finally leans back, exhaling. He glances out the window at the sprawling city, the sun setting in molten gold against the skyscrapers. His voice is softer now, but no less certain. "Good. Then maybe we can build something worth saving." Richard lets out a shaky breath. For the first time in months, his face cracks into something like hope. They sit there for a moment in silence, two men who were once enemies, now allies by necessity and choice. The city hums beyond them, vast and indifferent. But inside that office, something changes. Marcus reaches out to the side, hitting a button on the intercom. "Send in the team. We have work to do." The door opens and Marcus's staff enter, diverse, sharp-eyed, ready to listen and build. Richard turns in his chair, squaring his shoulders, face pale but determined. Marcus doesn't smile, but his eyes soften just a fraction. He inclines his head once. "Welcome aboard." The end. Thanks for reading this far. If you enjoyed this story and want to see more suspenseful, meaningful narratives with real moral stakes, please consider liking and subscribing so you don't miss the next one. It really helps us know what you want to see. What did you think about the plot? Did the redemption at the end work for you? Was the justice satisfying? Or would you have handled it differently? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. We read them all and love hearing your ideas. And tell us, where are you watching or reading from today? Drop your city or country in the comments so we can see how far this story travels. Your feedback shapes what we do next. Thanks for being part of this journey.